Hello everyone and welcome. I'm excited to kick off today's presentation. We'll be exploring Mega Goal 2.1, focusing on Unit 4, TV around the world. The core topics we'll cover include the form, meaning, and function of television. Over the next few slides, we'll look at how TV varies across different cultures, its purpose, and how it connects us globally. Let's get started. Today, we're going to focus on two main objectives. First, we want to learn how to use the indefinite articles, a and an, correctly. These are important because they help us introduce new nouns in a clear and natural way. Next, we'll look at how to use the definite article, the, properly. This helps specify particular things or people we are talking about, making our communication more precise. We'll also explore how to use adjective clauses and relative pronouns correctly. These are essential for adding detail and creating complex sentences that are clear and engaging. Finally, we'll work on distinguishing between relative pronouns used as subjects and those used as objects. Understanding this difference is key to constructing grammatically correct sentences and making your ideas flow smoothly. All of these points tie back to our overall goal of improving your clarity and precision in English communication. So, let's dive into each of these areas and practice them together. Let's take a look at some common words that help us talk about things clearly. First, we have the, which is called a definite article. It's used when we're talking about something specific that both the speaker and listener know about. For example, when I say the sun, I mean a particular sun that everyone knows. Next, we have an and a, which are indefinite articles. These are used when we're talking about something general or not yet identified. For instance, an egg could be any egg, not a specific one. Similarly, a book could be any book, not a particular one. Now, these articles are part of a bigger group called articles. They are small words, but they play a big role in making our sentences clear and precise. Understanding when to use the versus, a or an helps us communicate more effectively, especially when we're describing objects or things in the world around us. So, to connect this to our overall theme, mastering these articles is essential because they form the foundation of proper sentence structure and help us convey exactly what we're talking about. Let's talk about how we use the definite article, the. We use the before both singular and plural nouns when we're referring to something specific or already known. For example, you might say the student if you're talking about a particular student, or the students when referring to a specific group of students. Now, moving on to the indefinite articles. We use and before words that start with a vowel sound, like in English class, an aunt or an uncle. The key here is the sound, not necessarily the letter. Similarly, we use a before words that begin with a consonant sound, such as a TV show, a chef, or a festival. Again, it's the sound that matters, not the spelling. So, to summarize, the is used for specific things, while a and an are used when we're mentioning something more generally or for the first time. Understanding these rules helps us communicate more clearly and accurately. Now, let's look at some examples of using the word the with geographical features and groups of states. Here we see the Red Sea and the Amazon, which are specific bodies of water. Similarly, the Alps refers to a particular mountain range, and the United States points to a specific group of states. We also have the Arabian Desert, which is a well-known desert. Notice that when we talk about unique objects or specific regions, we usually use the. In the next example, the Earth and the Sun are one-of-a-kind objects, so we always use the with them. The same goes for the moon, the stars, the sky, and the sea. Remember, the is used before singular nouns that are specific or unique, like these examples. It's also used with plural nouns when referring to specific groups or places, such as the boys or the books. Understanding when to use the helps us be precise and clear, especially when talking about these important geographical features or groups. So, whenever you're referring to something specific or unique, think about whether the is needed. That's the key point here. let's take a closer look at some of the fundamental geographical and cultural elements that help us understand the world around us. First, we have islands, which are landmasses completely surrounded by water. They can be small or large and often have unique ecosystems and cultures. Moving on, mountains are natural elevations that rise prominently above their surroundings. They shape climate, influence weather, and define many regions. Next, we have continents, which are large landmasses that form the Earth's primary divisions. These continents host diverse countries, cultures, and environments. When we talk about streets, we're referring to the infrastructure that connects cities and neighborhoods, essential for daily life and commerce. People, of course, are at the heart of all these places. Our communities, traditions, and interactions shape the world we live in. Then we come to days and months, which organize our time and help us coordinate activities across different regions. Finally, cities and countries are the political and cultural units that define human civilization. They reflect history, values, and development. Throughout this presentation, the key idea is understanding how these elements, whether physical like islands and mountains or human-made like streets and cities, interconnect to form the complex tapestry of our world. Recognizing these distinctions helps us appreciate the diversity and unity of different places. It looks like slide 7 is currently blank or missing content, but let's focus on what we can do here. Since there are a lot of the and a few a words, perhaps it's a placeholder or an outline. If this slide is meant to highlight key points, I would suggest emphasizing the importance of clarity and focus in presentation content. Remember, even simple words like the and a serve crucial roles in language. They help us specify and define. In the context of our overall theme, this slide could be about the importance of precision in communication. It's a reminder that small words and details matter. They can change the meaning and impact of our message. So, even if the slide itself is minimal, the idea is that paying attention to these details is what makes our communication effective and engaging. All right, let's take a look at this slide. We have 2 sentences here. The cat is cute, and I see cat. The key idea is understanding how to choose the correct article to fill in those blanks. In English, when we talk about something specific that both the speaker and listener know about, we use the. So in the first sentence, the cat is cute, we insert the to refer to a particular cat that we both understand. In the second sentence, I see cat, we use because we're mentioning any cat in general, not a specific one. The most important concept here is recognizing when to use the versus. The points to something specific and known, while introduces something new or general. Connecting this to our overall theme, mastering articles helps us communicate clearly and precisely, especially when describing objects or animals. It's a small detail, but it makes a big difference in how our message is understood. Now let's take a closer look at how we use articles in these simple sentences. In the first example, we have the car is blue. Here, the word the is a definite article, which means we're talking about a specific car that both the speaker and the listener know about. It points to something particular. In the second example, I see car. Here, we need to fill in the blank with the appropriate article. Since we're mentioning a car for the first time and it's singular, we use the indefinite article, so the complete sentence becomes, I see a car. The key point here is understanding when to use the versus. The is used for specific or known objects, while is used when we're talking about something not specifically identified or mentioned for the first time. These articles are fundamental building blocks in English because they help us clarify whether we're referring to something specific or just any one of a kind. Connecting this to the overall theme of our presentation, mastering the use of articles helps improve clarity and communication, especially in describing objects or things around us. So, always pay attention to whether the noun is specific or general to choose the correct article. Today, we're going to focus on something very simple but essential, using the correct article in a sentence. On this slide, we see the sentence, sun is very hot today. The The key point here is understanding which article fits best before the word sun. Now, in English, when we talk about the sun, we usually use the definite article, the, because the sun is a unique object in our sky. So the correct sentence would be, the sun is very hot today. This example highlights how important it is to choose the right article to make our sentences clear and accurate. Remember, the is used for specific things that are known or unique, like the sun, the moon, or the earth. Getting these articles right helps us communicate more effectively and sound more natural in English. So whenever you're describing something unique or specific, think about whether the is the right choice. This small detail plays a big role in mastering English. Let's look at this example. I see eagle in the sky. Now the key here is filling in that blank with the correct article. You might be wondering which article should I use, a or an? Well, it depends on the sound that begins the next word. Since eagle starts with a vowel sound, we use an. So the complete sentence would be, I see an eagle in the sky. This is an important concept because choosing the correct article helps make your sentences clear and natural. Remember, n is used before words that start with a vowel sound, and a is used before words that start with a consonant sound. By mastering this, we can improve our fluency and make our spoken and written English much smoother. So, whenever you're unsure, think about how the word sounds rather than how it looks. That's the core idea behind using a and n correctly. Today, we'll look at how we categorize and connect different kinds of nouns using relative pronouns. First, we have the word both, which refers to two main groups, people and things. When we talk about people, we simply say people or persons, emphasizing human beings. Then we have things and animals, which cover non-human objects and creatures. To connect these nouns to more information, we use relative pronouns. The first one is who, which we use for people. For example, the person who called you. Next is which, used for things and animals like the book which I bought yesterday. And finally, that is a versatile pronoun that can refer to both people and things, such as the car that is parked outside. These pronouns are essential because they help us add details without starting a new sentence, making our communication clearer and more efficient. Understanding when and how to use who, which, and that is a key part of mastering sentence structure and connecting ideas smoothly. So, in summary, recognizing these categories and their corresponding relative pronouns helps us make our language precise and more engaging. Let's take a closer look at what a clause is. A clause is basically a part of a sentence that contains both a subject and a verb. It can stand alone as a complete sentence or be part of a larger sentence. Now, moving on to relative pronouns. These are special words that help us connect two clauses together smoothly. For example, when I say, I like friends who are honest, the word who is a relative pronoun. It introduces the clause who are honest, giving us more information about the friends I like. Another way to see it is, I like friends, they are honest. Here, the second sentence emphasizes that honesty, but by using the relative pronoun who, we can combine these ideas into one sentence, making it more concise and connected. So the key point is that relative pronouns serve as connectors. They bring two clauses together and help us give more details in a clear, natural way. This concept is essential because it helps us craft more complex and nuanced sentences, which is a core part of mastering effective communication. Now let's talk about object pronouns and relative pronouns. Sometimes, object pronouns can be omitted if they are understood in the context. When it comes to relative pronouns, it depends on what follows them. If a relative pronoun is followed by a noun or pronoun, it functions as an object pronoun. For example, in the sentence, I saw the girl who you told me about. The who refers to the girl, and it acts as the object of the verb told. On the other hand, if the relative pronoun is followed by a verb, then it acts as a subject pronoun. For instance, I saw the man who took the car. Here, who is the subject performing the action of taking the car? So, the key point to remember is that relative pronouns can serve as either subject or object, depending on what follows them in the sentence. This flexibility is important in constructing clear and concise sentences, and it ties back to our overall theme of understanding how pronouns function in English. All right, on this slide, we're looking at a simple sentence. I know the girl who gets good grades. Now, notice how the word which is used in the second example. I know the girl which gets good grades. But here, the key point, since we're talking about a girl, which is a person, we should actually be using who instead of which. So the correct sentence is, I know the girl who gets good grades. This is because who is the proper relative pronoun when referring to people. Which, on the other hand, is typically used for things or objects, not people. Now, the main takeaway here is understanding when to use who versus which. It might seem small, but it helps keep our sentences correct and clear, especially in more formal or precise writing. And just to connect this to the overall theme, paying attention to these little details improves our communication and makes our language more accurate and professional. Finally, I want you to find the fib in the sentences. See if you can spot the incorrect usage or the sentence that doesn't quite fit. Now let's look at this example. The movie which I saw last night was boring. Notice how we use which instead of who because we're talking about a thing, a movie. The original sentence says the movie who I saw last night, but that's not quite correct. Since movies are objects, not people, which is the proper relative pronoun to use here. So the correct form is the movie which I saw last night was boring. This is a small but important point in understanding how to connect clauses properly and make our sentences clearer. Spotting these kinds of errors, like using who for things, can help us improve our writing and speaking. And in the bigger picture, paying attention to these details ensures our communication is accurate and professional. Now for a quick challenge. Can you find the fib in this slide? Think about what's true and what's not, and see if you can spot the mistake or the trick. Now let's look at this sentence. The man who I saw was Ali. At first glance, it seems correct, but there's actually a common mistake here. Notice that the sentence says, who I saw him was Ali. The pronoun him is unnecessary and incorrect in this context. The correct sentence should be, the man who I saw was Ali, without the pronoun him. This highlights an important concept. When using relative clauses like who, the pronoun should match the subject of the clause. In this case, who is the subject of I saw, so we don't need to add him after who. Now, to connect this to our overall theme of clarity and correctness in language, always remember that unnecessary pronouns can clutter your sentence and cause confusion. And finally, the find the fib part asks us to identify the mistake, which is the extra him in the sentence. Spotting these small errors can make a big difference in how clear and professional your communication is. Today, we're looking at various types of devices and media that play important roles in our daily lives. First, there's the device that is produced to air in the morning, which is often part of our daily routine, like morning news or weather broadcasts. Next, we have the type of broadcast that shows documentaries, helping us learn about the world around us in an engaging way. Then, we consider a tool used during investigations, someone who collects scientific evidence to ensure that facts are solid and reliable. Moving on, there's a device that expresses feelings, like a microphone or perhaps a device designed to communicate emotions through sound or visuals. We also see a device that can control another device from a distance. Think of remote controls or smart home gadgets that let us manage appliances without being physically near them. On a different note, some things are very popular these days, like certain movies, apps, or social media platforms that capture a lot of attention and become part of our culture. Switching gears a bit, I might say that I want to have my vacation, which shows how personal plans and desires come into play in our conversations. Then, there's a device that converts sound waves into electrical signals. This is fundamental in microphones and audio technology, allowing us to record or transmit sound. When it comes to investigating crimes, there are special professionals and tools dedicated to uncovering the truth through evidence and analysis. In the realm of entertainment, we have someone who introduces contestants, like a host on a game show or a competition, guiding us through the program. All these points tie back to our overall theme of technology, media, and communication, showing how interconnected and essential these devices and concepts are in our everyday lives. Let's take a look at the final slide. On page 257 of the workbook, you'll find exercises labeled M and N. These are great opportunities for you to apply what we've discussed today. The key here is to reinforce your understanding through practice. Remember, the exercises are designed to help solidify your grasp of the concepts and to prepare you for real-world application. I encourage you to complete these exercises thoroughly. Doing your homework not only reinforces your learning, but also builds your confidence in handling similar situations outside the classroom. So make sure to review these exercises carefully, and if you find any questions challenging, don't hesitate to revisit the previous slides or ask for clarification. This wraps up our presentation, but your learning continues through these exercises. Thank you for your attention and participation today.